Terry Hynes is a man who's from the beautiful town of Renews, down there on the southern shore. And Terry is an author, and Terry has really taken it upon himself to do something that's really caused quite a stir here in the Facebook world and in the province. He has created the website, or the Facebook site, I keep calling it a website, Justice for Dana Bradley, and he's on the line. Terry, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having me, Darrell.
I'm so glad you made it. Terry, I did mention off the top of the program back what I felt back in 1981. What are your memories of that time?
Well, you touched on, I listened to your preamble, and you touched on all the reasons why I got involved with this Facebook site. Back when this event happened, I have a 14-year-old daughter, same age as Dana Bradley, and I lived in the area close to where she was abducted. So it impacted on me significantly. There, by the grace of God, go I. It could have been my child, and so my heart really went out to the Bradley family, and I followed the story every day, as everybody else did at the time. And through the years, as you described a few minutes ago, I, like hundreds, maybe thousands of others, followed everything that happened in the news media over the last 33 years. Always hoping for a solution, always hoping that something would happen that would bring this case to a close and give some peace of mind to all the people who are concerned. Lo and behold, on this year, a young man named Robert came forward with probably the best information that has ever been available on this case, and I think the reason for the site was basically came from my frustration that the RCMP didn't seem to take the situation as seriously as I thought maybe they should.
And Terry, like you, it's interesting that you would to put the time and the effort into doing this, because currently you are actually suffering from your own health issues right now. Would you mind sharing a little bit of that with us?
Well, sure, I don't mind talking about it, but I'd rather focus on the case. I will tell you that, yes, I have terminal cancer. At the moment, I'm going through chemotherapy, and yeah, that's my life, but I'm fine. The chemo is working. There's no cure, but we're keeping it at bay, and things are going well. So, that's my little story, but, yeah.
I guess, Terry, the reason why I did go down that lane for a second is because so many people, when they do come to face with their own issues, they really might get so bogged into their own issues that they don't get a chance to get outside themselves. But you have, at this time in your life, taken it upon yourself to give back. Why did you decide now that this was a worthwhile pursuit?
Well, I always thought that the case deserved more than it was getting. And yes, I'm probably more, let's use the word spiritually motivated in recent years, because aside from the terminal cancer, I've had an interesting 4 years. 4 years ago, I was in a coma for 7 weeks, and I flatlined twice because I had flesh-eating disease. I came out of that coma and was in hospital for a significant period of time, and a year afterwards, when I was healed, the very day that I last saw my doctor, I went to get the results of a test that had been done while I was in hospital, and they told me I had terminal cancer. So all of that sort of happened 3 years ago, and yeah, I think it made me aware of my own mortality, and now I have, whatever time I have left, I'd like to, if something comes along that I really feel I can help with and maybe motivate people with, I'd like to do that. So that's probably part of my motivation.
Were you surprised in such a short time? You've had, I don't know if there's might be close to 2,000 people who've so quickly signed on to this site, and that so many have been posting their thoughts and their feelings on about the story of Dana and how the search for the killer needs to go on and needs to push forward. And are you surprised at all with so many people so quickly?
I'm extremely surprised, and I'm extremely delighted. When I started this first, I wondered if people still remembered Dana Bradley case and Dana Bradley the way that I did, and I was absolutely amazed to find out how quickly, how close it was to people's hearts still at this point in time. So many people that weren't even born at the time, and because they heard it from their families, they've read it in the news over the years. But for some reason, Dana Bradley has grabbed everybody's heart, and everybody wants a solution. She's become every parent's lost child.
And I was looking back at some old articles, etc., over the last few days, and I came across one written by Barb Sweet that was actually called "No Justice from Dana." Is that where the name came from?
Well, I don't know. Justice and Dana seem to go together. I really didn't think about that in terms of, the justice part came from the fact that there's a push now to try and find justice for her, and then so it just was a natural fit. I didn't borrow it from anyplace else.
I've been sitting in this chair maybe since February of this year, and I bet I've touched on Dana at least 7, 8, 9 times over the course of this show. Just because I feel it's an important issue, because it seems like this story that sort of it comes up and have these tremendous hopes that it's going to something is going to move forward, and then it's like the legs are cut off from under you and your hopes are dashed. But I'm really, really impressed with what you have managed to do, because I think you have created a forum for the conversation to just continue to be on an ongoing basis for anybody who wants to read, get some information, look through some old articles, find out a little bit more about Dana, or just express what's on your mind. You've given a forum for it. It's really quite a special thing.
Well, thank you, but I think everybody has the same questions that I have, and the questions are, it went to the RCMP, and they said that they weren't prepared to accept the things that Robert said because he suffered from false memory syndrome. Well, we very quickly found out that false memory syndrome was coined by this guy named Peter Freud, who was accused of sexually assaulting his own daughter. It's really not a recognized medical profession term. It's not a diagnosis that's recognized in the medical profession, and yet that's what our police force is hanging their head on and saying as a reason for not believing Robert. Well, I don't know what it is that didn't match the information that the RCMP have, because of course they keep that for very obvious reasons to themselves. But I do know where it does match, and where it does match is what has me intrigued. I mean, it is not a false memory for Robert to say that his father owned the car that was described, a car like the one described that picked up Dana Bradley that night. It is a fact that his father owned such a vehicle, and that vehicle was in fact investigated by the RCMP in 1981. That's not false memory. When he says that the car was driven by a next-door neighbor who then murdered Dana Bradley, we since know that next-door neighbor was convicted of assault against children and is now a registered pedophile. That's not false memory. Those facts are there. They're there to be seen. He says that he knows where the car is buried. Well, I believe that part of it is true as well. And I think the police should believe that part of it is true, and that they should go and have a look at it. I have this to say on the car. If they don't believe Robert, all they need to do is dig up the car. If Robert is not telling the truth, the car will not provide any evidence, and we're back to square one, where we were before Robert came forward. If, in fact, they dig up the car and they find trace evidence in that car, any kind of trace evidence that puts Dana Bradley in that vehicle, then Robert's story becomes absolute truth. And you have a conviction beyond a moral certainty. So that's how important that car is. It's beyond a reasonable doubt if that car dug up has trace evidence of one way or the other that connects it with Dana Bradley. It puts Dana Bradley in that car, it puts a witness in the car, and it puts a killer in the car. Dig up the car.
Terry, there's 500,000 people in this province who hope beyond all means that the killer will face justice. How do you feel today? Do you have hope?
Oh, I do, and for some reason I've felt that hope ever since in the last couple of weeks when I first reached out and realized how much support was there for this case after all these years. People can't be wrong. That many people who have taken this little girl to their hearts can't be wrong. There's got to be justice. And her family deserves it. All of these people deserve it. But most important, she deserves it. And so does Robert. Robert needs to be vindicated.
Yep. Now, Terry, I do have to, I know that before I let you go, your last name is Hynes, and you're a Hynes on the Southern Shore. So when I was talking to you earlier, I asked if you were related to Ron, the man, the legend, and you told me he is your cousin, right?
Yes, indeed. Ron and I are cousins.
Are you familiar with that song that Ron wrote? Because I did, just after touching base with you today, I did go back and revisit some of those lyrics, which is, boy, has he ever just really touched on what everybody felt at that point in time and today, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Ron and I hadn't talked about this case until in the last week or so when I got it more involved, and I told him about referring to his song on the site, and he told me that anything that he could do to help, he would do, and so we've talked about it since then, but not before that. But absolutely, I mean, typical of Ron and his wonderful skills. He's brought people into how it must feel to be, part of Dana Bradley's family and everything that they've suffered over the years.
He wrote, "The ghost of Dana Bradley is standing sadly on the road to home. You can see her as you hurry by."
But the line that I love is that the ghost of Dana Bradley is waiting for someone.
Yep.
And I think the someone she's waiting for is all of us Newfoundlanders who have the answer, and we have the power to make people find those answers.
Terry, I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to speak to me tonight. Thank you for creating this site, and thank you for giving people a place where they can vent their frustrations. And I firmly believe that justice moves forward because of public outcry. And it's the actions of individuals like you that push stories and keep them in the limelight. So thank you for this. I'll be following your site, which is Justice for Dana Bradley. It's on Facebook. Anyone can find it there. Thank you so much, Terry. Take good care of yourself, okay?
I will, my friend, and thank you so much for having me.
I would really hope I hope we can sit down and have a coffee someday soon. Terry, thanks a lot for this.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah, thanks, bud. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Terry Hynes, the creator of the, I wonder if we should go to a quick break. We're going to go to a quick break, but when we come back, don't go away. We're going to speak with Michael Crystal. Michael Crystal is a lawyer who did work in Newfoundland, but presently he is in Ottawa. And Michael Crystal is really spearheading on a whole nother front, not from it's doing the same thing as Terry is doing, but he is taking this story on a legal level to try and push to get some answers, to get some justice for Dana Bradley.